Right, an interview with me, Giya. Right, start off. Number one, when was the last time you felt like an odd fish? All the time, I guess. And I guess that's sort of the point of Odd Fish. You know, it's about sort of feeling slightly disconnected from the world around you, and that you could sort of be wandering around with a fish mask on, and no one would seemingly notice. So yeah, it's just about the misfits who don't really seem to fit in with the masses. But I think we all feel a little bit like that. So it's supposed to be unique, but I actually think it's something we all feel quite a lot. What makes you feel like home, feel like you belong? My friends, my family, and music, and London. Despite the ideas of dirt and chaos behind the Jughouse song, it still sounds comforting. Was this an idea from you? It definitely was at the time. As kind of chaotic and, you know, mental as it was. You know, it was my home for 2 years of my life, and yeah, those are memories that I'll always stay very, very close to my heart. Even if it was probably not the best kept house in the universe. It was actually pretty vile by the end. I think there were things living in the carpets trying to eat our legs as we sat in the hall, which was this like basement underground where lots of the mania happened. But yeah, definitely a place that feels like home to me. Spin the Records, perfect way to communicate. Cecily invites to spin the EP once again. What was the ideal father-daughter relationship? Well, I reference it in the song when I'm talking about the long drives and in the booster seat, which is something I just remember so vividly. We listened to like David Gray seemingly for like 4 hours just on like a 1 album loop, and it was slightly hardwired into my brain. Which I think has actually shaped my music quite a lot. But yeah, no, we had a great relationship growing up, you know, when I was younger. Yeah, memories like that. I remember, you know, we used to play football all the time. So yeah, very fond memories of those days. What helped you on your way to forgiveness and empathy? I think that when you're younger, you know, when I was in my sort of teens, you think of the world in a very narrow way, and you think you're kind of the centre of it. And especially when it comes to your parents, you don't really think that they're humans. They're kind of just these like infallible beings that can do no wrong, and when they do wrong, it's like the world is ending. And then as you get a bit older and you live your life a bit more, you realise that, you know what, actually they are just human, and mistakes are, you know, are made by everyone, and unfortunate circumstances happen, and that's part of life. And as they sort of happen to you as you grow up, you sort of have a lot more empathy, I think, in general, towards not just your family, but towards everyone. So I think just time and an awareness of the world a little bit better. Because yeah, quite demanding as a child, I think, of especially your parents. But yeah. So finally, what do you want to express and picture with this brand new EP, Odd Fish? I mean, this was a slightly interesting EP, because it was kind of a culmination over quite a long period of time where I was releasing and in the studio at the same time, and I always wanted to collate it as a body of work, but for whatever rhyme or reason, it was just kind of stretching out, and it became very, very clear to me when I just had the phrase Odd Fish going around my head so much for some reason. I didn't really know why, but it was a phrase that I kept sort of coming back to, even though there wasn't any like titular song on the EP called Odd Fish. It felt like a phrase that really perfectly summed up this body of work, because I would have said the last one was slightly more grappling with like society, and I guess your sort of it was more of like a memory, I would say, whereas this EP feels a lot more like a kind of consistent feeling of youth culture, especially, and what it feels like to grow up as a teenager in Britain at the moment. And I think there is a lot of alienation involved with that, and it's a very alienating time to be young and trying to find yourself and trying to figure your way into eventual adulthood at this time, you know, whether that's social media kind of painting a picture of what the world is when it isn't, and, you know, the various kind of darker sides to society which are now sort of readily accessible to everyone. I think it can make the world seem a little bit overwhelming a lot of the time. So that's kind of what I wanted it to feel like, a bit of a warm hug to those that are going through similar things, where they feel a little bit detached from the world they see around them, a little bit alienated, and, well, I guess it's just a recognition that we all kind of feel the same. So yeah, that was the idea behind it. What have I learnt about myself after recording this project? That I take a lot longer to complete things than I would have originally liked. I wouldn't say, well, maybe I am a perfectionist to a degree, and it's important to take care of your work, and it's important to take time and make sure it's at a standard and level that you're really pleased with and you're really happy with. But I have definitely stretched this one, but it's, you know what, it's actually been a really pleasant experience, the whole process of kind of really putting my all into each song and making sure that each one has its own life and its own right and is getting the airtime, because that was probably a regret from my last project, you know. Some of the songs on there probably didn't get the sort of platform to be appreciated in the same way as the singles were, so that's something I really tried to do with this project. But yeah, I think just like be a bit more forgiving of yourself. I think the writing process with these songs was just a lot more kind of loose and natural, whereas before I sort of pinned myself to a desk 3 hours a day and like forced myself to write all the time, which, like, you know, works for some people, but for me personally, I just kind of think life's a bit too short, you know, especially with something like writing. It should be a really positive experience and feeling. So you don't want to nail yourself down and force yourself to work, because I don't always think that's where the best stuff comes. It's not impossible that stuff comes, but I think the best stuff I've done is when, you know, for example, Junk House. It was the first time I met my producer Tom, and in Brighton, and we met at his studio, at his home studio, and we did like a couple. I think it was the first day actually. We went in and I was really out of practice, and this was the Junk House year, so I'd basically just been getting drunk for like 5 months, and I'd done basically no writing, occasionally singing, but that was basically it. And we had a really unproductive first day, and I kind of went home and I was really bummed about it, and I forced myself. I was just like, you know, I'll just pick up the guitar, see what happens, like, and literally Junk House just fell out my mouth. And I think it's because I just wasn't even trying. There's something that happens where you've kind of been trying to write all day, that you give yourself like an hour or even like, 20 minutes. And then suddenly like this inspiration arrives, and I kind of just tapped into what I was really feeling at that time and what I was genuinely going through. And that was that I was actually having a great time with my friends in a Junk House. So yeah, it was quite it's just simplified process. So yeah, I guess I've learned not to overcomplicate things, try and enjoy them a bit more. Because at the end of the day, it's just art. So, yeah. But yeah, thank you very much. Always sounds so beautiful. I've been Giya. These were my 7 questions. Thanks.